Hello everyone, I'm Women International Master Kanarik and I'm using the chesswithkanarik.com website to record this video. I also would like to introduce to you the chess.ie website where it's a new chess platform where you can join and also improve your chess skills. Now, um, in this game, we're going to see different strategies, different tactics that we can use when we are playing a game where we have castled on opposite sides of the chessboard. So, for example, in this game, white has castled on the king side, while black is going to be castling later on the queen side of the chessboard. And we're going to see how the attack is going to be, what are strategies that we should follow, what are moves that we should avoid. And this is actually a game from the World Championship in 1966 between Boris Spassky and Tikran Petrosyan. Now, and it's also a special game because usually Tikran Petrosyan is not known for playing very tactical games. So this one is a tactical game, and let's see how it will go. So at this point, it is early for black to decide to castle on the queen side because for now we have moved a lot of pawns there and it might be easier for our opponent to open up files and start the attack. So, but after just a few moves, black already decided where to castle. Black captured the knight that's in the center, white had to capture back of course, and the knight on f6 is being attacked, moved to d7, and attacked the pawn that's on e5. The bishop moved back to f4. So at this point, we can see that it's true that the white pawns on the king side have not moved at all. So it's not going to be easy for us to create a target or try to open up some files. But on the other hand, white does have the bishop here, which will allow us to attack this bishop by gaining some time. We can just push our pawn and attack this bishop by gaining time and making our attack faster. So at this point, black decided to castle queenside and played queen to c7. Now, after queen c7, here, okay, there is a bit pressure also on the e5 square. Also, there is a threat of just pushing the pawn, and anytime black wants, they can just castle. So white played the knight to f3. Of course, there were some other options to consider, let's say pawn to e4, but what was played in the game was knight to f3. So here, black pushed the pawn to h6. Very simply, we just want to attack this bishop by gaining time. We want to be pushing our pawns on the king side of the chessboard. So usually, if we have castled on the same side of the chessboard, of course, we would not think easily about doing such a move because that would make our king weaker. But here, since we know that we have decided we're going to castle on the queen side, then it's fine. We can just push the pawns on the king side of the chessboard. And let's see, pawn to h6. After pawn h6, white played the pawn to b4. Now, white is also trying to attack, create the attack, start the attack on the queen side because it's expected that sooner or later, black's going to castle on the queen side. Why to castle on the queen side? Not specifically for the safety of the king, but also because black would like to use the rook that's on a8 in the attack. How are we going to use the rook if we don't really castle? So, pawn to b4. Next, black pushed the pawn to g5. And the only move for the bishop is to move to g3, and black plays pawn to h5. So this is a typical trap. It threatens to push the pawn to h4 and trap the bishop that's on g3. So here, naturally, white pushed the pawn to h4. And black decided to capture, just open up the g file. Of course, capture. So here, capturing for white would not be so good because after the capture, if we trade the bishops, then black is going to be able to capture the pawn that's on e5. And now we have the position is more open and we have new lines that are also attacking the white king in addition to just the extra pawn that we want in the center. Now, what white decides to play is white decided to play just leave the bishop on f4, keep the center protected, the e5 pawn. And here, what did black play? Now, it's time for black to start occupying the g file. And to do that, we definitely will need to double the rooks. We need to use both rooks. So black decided here to castle for them to be able to use the rook on the g file. So at this point, uh, white pushed the pawn to a4. Now, this is an inaccuracy. It's a bit difficult to really understand why this is an inaccuracy, because it looks like it's a very natural move. Also, white is trying to push pawns on the queen side and try to open up some files, right? But this move actually allowed black to block all the queen side and not allow for any pawn trading on the queen side, and not to allow any files to be opened on the queen side. And how did black do that? Maybe you can pause the video and try to figure it out. And let's see. Black blocked the white's attack on the queen side by just pushing the pawn to c5 first. So that's gaining time, of course, attacking the bishop. The bishop moved away to e2, and now we can just play the pawn to a6. After pawn a6, black is ready for any move white is playing after. White plays a pawn to a5. We can block the queen side by playing pawn to b5. And if white plays pawn to b5, we can block the queen side by playing pawn to a5. So in this way, white's attack on the queen side is almost stopping, while our attack on the king side, we can just take our time and improve our position there and attack white. So it's true that with this pawn push, we have given up the d4 square, but right now it's not really that important, because after the knight occupies the d4 square, fine. But how is that attacking? How is that helping with white's attack? Not much really in this position. So after pawn to a6, white is expecting that the black rooks are going to be doubled or piled on the g file. So white moved away the king to h1. Of course, as expected, black moved the rook that's not doing much at this moment, the d rook, to the g file. Black moved the d rook to the g file. White also trying to defend the g file. And here, black decided to create a battery on the g file, move the rook to g4. Now, of course, the knight can move with a discovered attack, and we can just move away and continue doing our plan. There's nothing really dangerous here. A move like knight to g5 is not really dangerous, because we can just give up our rook for 2 pieces, which is very good. We can just capture the knight and bishop, give up just the black rook. So at this point, white didn't attack the rook that's on g4, instead just played queen to d2. Now, after queen d2, black already had decided to have both rooks on the g file, so rook h to g8. And here, white decided to use the rook that's on a1. So first, push the pawn on the a file. Of course, we were with black expecting this move, and Tigran Petrosyan played pawn to b5, blocking all white's attack on the queen side. And then Boris Spassky put the rook to the a rook on d1, trying some tactics to open up maybe the d file, and trying some tactics there, because okay, white should try to create a counter attack, otherwise only black is playing in this game. So after rook to d1, black moved the bishop to f8. Now bishop to f8 is trying to again open up some lines for us to attack. Black's threat is to push the pawn, give up the pawn on the f file, and then push the e pawn, and also try to attack and open up some diagonals for us to attack on the king side. Now, after bishop to f8, white pushed the pawn to e4. First, before pushing the pawn to e4, white attacked the rook that's on g4. Now, Tigran Petrosyan is well known for liking to sacrifice the exchange. And here, that's what happened. So almost in many games, Tigran Petrosyan was sacrificing the exchange. It means giving up the rook for a bishop or a knight to gain some compensation for it, some initiative for it, some advantage in return. So here, that's what happened as well. And Tigran Peterson just captured the pawn in the center and gave up the rook for the knight. But in return, the position that we have reached with black is very good, because now we have both pawns so that are very advanced, attacking the king side of white. And in addition to also now we can use our bishop to try to trade the uh, dark square bishop that is defending the white's king side. So here white's trying some tactics, a pawn to e4. Of course, here capture is not good for us, because if we capture, we can lose just a piece, because after capture, we can't really capture that bishop with our queen. There's going to be checkmate on the d8 square. So white just won a piece here, and white's definitely going to be good here going back. So we don't need to capture. What black played is try to use the bishop now, move the bishop to d6. The white queen moved to e3, trying to defend the king side. And here, black decided to trade the dark square bishop that white has, because this bishop is defending one of the defenders of the king side of white. So after the trade, white played the rook to d4. Now, rook to d4 allowed black now to push some more pawns, and it allowed black to push the e pawn, and after the e pawn also the f pawn. Now black's position is just very good here. The pressure is very strong, and even if we just push the pawns, there will be many combinations of moves that are going to be good for us. At this point, white captured. White decided to capture the d pawn, and after capturing the d pawn, the f pawn was pushed. Now there are 3 pawns advanced so far and attacking white's king side. White moved the queen to e4. The knight is also joining the attack by gaining time. Boris Spassky checked, but this is just one check. We can just put the king away. And with a pawn to f3, Spassky was trying maybe to hold the black pawns away, not to allow them to advance too far, and trying probably to keep this diagonal maybe safe. So here, black moved the bishop to c8, attacked the queen. The queen's safe moves are probably only to c2 and b1. So the queen moved to b1. And here again, there are different ways that we can continue with our attack. What was played in the game was pawn to g3, because it's very simple. Our next move is just going to be pushing the pawn to h3 and using the h file for our attack. And here, so white tried to make some room for the king to move away the rook. Of course, black is pushing this pawn. White's trying to defend with the bishop on f1. And we use the h file at this point, rook to h8. And here, white captured, black captured back. Now we have the h file open, and this game is almost decided that it's a very big advantage for black. It's very difficult for white to defend this position. So the white king moved away from the h file. Black traded. Now capturing with the rook here, black could just simply try to move the queen to the h file, and again the attack is going to be very strong. So white decided to capture with the king, and at this point black decided to push some more pawns and have 2 pawns on the third rank, and sacrificed the pawn on e4. Now here white decided to defend the position by playing queen to d1, because here if black captures, our queen is joining in the defense, and white might hold the position a bit like this. So definitely black is not capturing here, but instead black played a very good move and played the knight to g4, because here our threats are too many. The knight is joining the attack. We also want to join with our queen the attack on the h file. If capture, we can just push the pawn on to f3. So what white played was white captured on e4, black pushed the pawn to f3, and here this position is just not possible to defend for white. For example, capture is just going to allow black to win the queen. The threat is just checkmate. And let's say even trying to sacrifice the rook to save the king is not going to work, because there is definitely a checkmate here, just a check. And then there are different moves that are going to checkmate white in this position. So there are different key moments in this game that it's important that we pay attention to. For example, that when we were attacking with the white pieces, we had to pay attention to attack in such a way that we don't allow our opponent to block our attack on the queen side, which white allowed in this case. So another thing to pay attention to is that when we are deciding to castle on opposite side of the chessboard, to make sure that our attack is going to be fast enough. And in this case, we had moves that were pushing the pawn by gaining tempo when we were pushing our pawns and attacking the white bishop that was on f4. And finally, we also, just to open up some lines and to have our pieces attack, we even had to sacrifice the exchange, and that's fine. Okay, so this was a very good example to show us how we can attack when we have castled on different sides of the chessboard.